Hello everyone and welcome back to Hell Yeah Gaming, where I was able to conduct a follow-up interview with Xixo Studios, which you may know as the two-man indie group who are developing a Cuphead-inspired game called Enchanted Portals. I've covered it plenty of times on my channel. You can check out in the iCards or this playlist on the side where you can see all the other videos I've covered on here. And a few days ago, they went ahead and launched their Kickstarter to get funding for this project. Now, I went ahead and reached out to them, conducted a second interview just as a follow-up after everything that's happened. So, we'll go ahead and jump right on into it. And just like with the last interview, this was done entirely by text, so the parts of Daniel and Gemma will be read off and played by my lovely wife Aurora.
Hola!
In October, you held off on your Kickstarter campaign because a publisher reached out to you to form a partnership. If you are at liberty to say, which publisher were you in talks with?
Out of respect for the publisher, we don't want to specify who they were exactly, although we can say that some of their recently published games are fairly well known.
At what point did you realize that partnering with this publisher wasn't for you?
It is no secret that contracts with video game publishers often tend to be very detrimental for developers. In this case, there were several points that we didn't agree with at all that were non-negotiable for them, so the partnership fell through in the end.
Could you give an example of a sticking point the publisher refused to budge on?
Sure thing. Most critical for us were concerns about keeping our IP. The publisher wanted too much control over the rights, which basically meant we could get locked out of making more Enchanted Portals games unless it was with that specific publisher. Also, the whole contract was very punishing for us in case we failed to meet their demands, with some very scary hypothetical scenarios where we could lose everything after years of development and still have to pay the publisher back their investment in full.
Has your approach to designing, planning, and executing your game development changed significantly through this process?
For the most part, we're still keeping the same plan that we started with, aiming for a base amount of content for the game that we can expand upon later if the funds allow it. The backlash and suggestions we got back when we first showed the game in October have changed some aspects of the game, of course, but the workflow for us is basically the same.
Do you still have regular jobs while you work on Enchanted Portals? If so, how do you balance what amounts to being two different lives?
Right now, Enchanted Portals is all we're working on, so there's no problem balancing two different lives at all. On the flip side, getting funds for development is quite critical for us in order to continue with the project.
Considering the current pandemic we face, do you foresee the current state of affairs delaying your development process at all?
We've been lucky enough that the pandemic hasn't affected our workflow in any significant way. We live in different parts of Spain, so we're already working from our homes to begin with.
Let's talk story for a minute. From a very short clip in your newest trailer, it looks like the spellbook Bob and Penny are chasing after is actually alive and actively avoiding them. Can you tell us about that for a moment?
As you can see, the magic book is very alive, and Bobby and Penny will have not only to retrieve it, but to chase after it through dimensions, and the book itself won't make it easy for them.
Considering the whole Sorcerer's Apprentice angle in this story, Bob and Penny surely have a master. Will we be seeing this master magician at all?
Yes, Bobby and Penny of course have a master, and you will be seeing him in the game not only teaching them some magic, but also telling them to never, ever, ever touch that very special magic book sitting on the shelf, because really awful things could happen. But, well, you know what happens next.
Between the two of you, who primarily handles working with the merchandising for your Kickstarter rewards?
As the game director, Daniel's the one handling everything that has to do with merchandising and the campaign.
I've noticed that under stretch goals, everything is listed under question marks. Is this because stretch goals are undecided, or are they remaining hidden for some reason?
We were considering having them visible from the start, but we've decided to keep them hidden and reveal them as they're being reached. This allows us to change what the goals will be during the campaign, which could be quite useful. For instance, if during the campaign a lot of people ask for some specific feature for the game above any other, we could make that our first stretch goal.
The design on the t-shirt is the same concept art that we've seen many times. Is the design locked in, or will there be more options?
The t-shirt design shown is a placeholder. We plan on having more designs to choose from in the future.
I cannot help but notice that the highest tier reward, which offers 2 of every reward below, also lists your name in the credits twice. Is this a simple typo, or is it more of a +1 friend sort of deal?
Yes, you get double of everything, including 2 names of your choice in the game's credits.
Let's talk the big concern here. Your Kickstarter goal is 120,000 euros, or roughly 130,000 US dollars. The vast majority of crowdsource funding has the biggest push in the first 1 to 2 days and the last 1 to 2 days, with the rest of the month being a slump. By the end of your first day, your Kickstarter has roughly $7,000. And now that we are 5 days in, it's only reached a bit over 11,000, which isn't even 1/10 of your goal. What's your strategy to really push this project and make your goal?
It's still too early to know how the campaign will evolve for the rest of the month. We've been reading a lot of articles on the success of Kickstarters, and it seems like the curve can vary a lot. Our start has been a bit slow, that's true, but we're hoping to get some extra bumps in backers along the way, especially near the end of the campaign, which seems to be when most projects get the majority of their funding. And with some luck, we might be able to reach our goal.
Well, I hope that you'll be able to reach the goal, and I'll be backing soon myself, most likely at the $50 level.
Well, thank you so much for your support. That's very generous of you.
Keeping in mind that Kickstarter is an all-or-nothing crowdfunding platform, what plans do you have in place if you cannot reach your goal and thus get no funding?
If the campaign isn't successful in the end, it's not the end of the world for us. It would be a setback, of course, but development would definitely continue, even if at a much slower pace. There's been several other publishers contacting us these past months, so we would try exploring those options as well.
Assuming everything goes completely according to plan and all is smooth sailing, what sort of development time are you estimating?
For our base goal in the campaign, we estimate the game to launch in October of next year. If we manage to get more funds some other way and we can make a bigger game, it could take a little bit longer. In any case, we'll keep the community informed of our progress at all times.
Do you foresee the need to hire any additional staff?
For some specific aspects of the development, like porting the game to consoles, localization, bug fixing, and maybe audio design, we might have to hire other people to help. As with everything else, it'll greatly depend on the resources we manage to get, but ideally, we would try to do as much as possible ourselves to be able to divert the funds into making more content for the game.
Do you have a favorite character, be it one of the bosses or the dynamic duo themselves?
Bobby and Penny have a special place in our hearts, of course. After all, Enchanted Portals started as just some crude concept art for both of them and nothing more. Among the bosses, we'd say that the Space Cow and the Cerberus boss are probably our favorites.
Fun coincidence, the Space Cow and Cerberus are my favorites as well. Special mention goes to the Greaser Chicken, too.
We're really happy to hear that. We really like the Rooster as well.
Well, thank you again for your time. I'm glad you were willing to do a second interview with me, and I hope I can increase awareness of your project in doing so. Is there anything you would like to say or add before we go ahead and end things here?
If there's no more questions, we think there's nothing else to add.
That's fantastic. Well, again, I wish nothing but the best for the two of you and your project. You may remember from last time that I like to end all my videos with a big cheer of hell yeah. If you join me, I think we can all give Enchanted Portals a great, big
Hell yeah!